Hello, everyone, and welcome to Afternoon Tea. It is Friday, April 10th, and I'm so excited that you are here. Obviously, we had breaking news as I was trying to figure out what we were going to cover today on the live stream, which is that Harry is being sued by Sentebale and its directors and everything. And I was thinking about this a lot in the car because I was driving around today, and there is multiple different ways you can look at this, and I don't think it's as much of a slam dunk as some people probably want to believe, because there's a lot of reasons for things to have happened the way they did that kind of got blown out of proportion on social media. So we will have to see, guys, but I honestly would not get super excited about this yet. Just super excited. It depends on a lot of things, a lot of factors here. And we also have Harry and Meghan basically being revealed to be liars again, because yes, it's come out. Australia has confirmed basically that Harry and Meghan will receive a level of support from the taxpayers with a little bit of security at different locations, which was not a surprise. It's what we expected, but it just goes to go again to show that they're like, well, this is not publicly being funded. And it's not, but it is at the same time. And Harry and Meghan would just do themselves so many favors if they could just tell the freaking truth. Like, come on. All right, we're gonna change the camera there a smidge. But it's just ridiculous. It's just their constant, weird, crazy, strange need to try and make things look better, and yet everything ends up looking worse because you lied when you should have just told the truth in the first place. But Harry and Meghan, again, they really struggle with this concept of truth telling. It has never been super easy for them. So guys, that is what we are going to discuss today. Probably we may keep this a little bit shorter. I'm still recovering from my cold, so my cough is sort of off and on. And obviously as well, I'm not dressed to impress today, guys. So it was very funny because I've been looking for more book boxes from Walmart, because Walmart has these sturdy boxes that are only like $1.50 or something, and they're good for books. And then I went to one Walmart and I knew they were sold out, but I looked again and they were still sold out. And I went to another Walmart who doesn't even seem to carry the heavy duty boxes. So I don't know what I'm going to do, because I have all the books in the library here. I've gotten all the other books, but I have the library books here that I need to address. And I was putting books that were in my storage unit into actual official book boxes because I'd left them in something else. And I don't think the regular ones are strong enough. I really do think I need the heavy duty, but they're all sold out. I don't know where to go, guys. So anyways, I live sort of close-ish to a university campus, so some of those are being taken up there. But just to let you guys know, we've had a lot of this week. It's been a birthday week. It was my birthday this week, my mom's birthday this week. So just lots and lots going on and moving and getting ready for Sweden and so many different things. There's so many, like plates stirring in the air, guys. So much going on. But thank you so much for tuning in, especially at a bit of a later hour. And we do have Baseline, who has become a new YouTube member. Why, thank you so much, Baseline. And we have Angela, who said Harry and Meghan being liars is like saying water is wet. Very true. Very true. And it's just, again, the thing I knew that most people knew is that most likely, because they are high profile people, them going to an event would cause a bit of a stir, resulting in maybe an additional police presence. It's not unusual, but Harry and Meghan have such a bad reputation. The question over security and various issues just hangs around them so much that it would have just benefited them to tell the truth. Just tell the truth, for Pete's sakes. All right, and we do have a super chat from Just a Country Girl who said, do you think she might try to cancel the event just to garner the sympathy vote? Could be, because this event, honestly, so the event Meghan is supposed to attend in Australia, the girls' weekend, is honestly looks last minute. This does not look well planned. It looks like a last minute thing. And so because of that, or it could have been something they planned, but they moved it up because Meghan was going to be there and Meghan was begging to do something. So they're like, well, if we can get Meghan Markle, why don't we put it this day? So it could definitely, I think, it looked bad. Gemma, poor Gemma, she's like up a creek without a paddle. I think she desperately needs the money. So I'm sure she wants this to go ahead. But this again goes back to the issue of, having a real career. and doing something that results in people wanting you to attend. Meghan Markle invited herself. Gemma didn't go out and invite her. And if Meghan wants people to invite her to things, which I think she does, she should have put feelers out through her professionals rather than begging and pleading through a friend to get this event. And so, could she cancel it? Yes. Will she? I don't know. But yeah, country girl, we will have to see. Okay. So, and thank you so much, guys, for the birthday wishes. I do appreciate it. We had some fun hanging out, me and my mom, because we kind of consider ourselves birthday buddies. And so we were born on different days, but very close. So it's just sort of fun. But let's go ahead and move over to this breaking story regarding Sentebale. And again, this is more complex than I think people want to think and believe, because again, there's so much, I think, emotion and everything attached to Harry and Meghan that things kind of get blown out of proportion, and things also kind of get twisted. And we'll go through this Telegraph. I might have to pull up some other sources just to get kind of the full statement from Sentebale, but I guess this was technically filed last week, and it's become public though this week. So again, complexities here. And I just again want people to encourage you and all. Thank you again so much for the birthday wishes, and for me and my mom too. That's awesome. But I just do want to say, like, sometimes it's good to take a couple of steps back and look at kind of the broader picture here, because the real issue here is whether or not there was like an actual coordinated campaign, or if, again, Harry and Mark both have a right, and anybody connected to Sentebale has a right to say why they left. That is not actually against the law or anything. And it could be twisted as defamation, but it could also be, hey, we left and we have to give reasons for leaving, and these are our reasons for leaving. That is perfectly legitimate to say. That is not a coordinated campaign. That is just, we need to put out a statement. Because honestly, Harry and Meghan's side was it was less, let's say, Harry and Meghan's side wasn't as, actually, I would say, aggressive as it normally is in certain situations. And the actual interesting point as well is, was there coordination among the Sussex squad? That would actually be interesting, because the kind of the odd thing is that they're claiming there was this big media campaign and backlash, but really a lot of people were on Sophie's side. So I'm not quite seeing how all the boxes tick up. But I do think there's something else going on, and I think they're hoping that if they can pin it on this, then they can avoid certain other things. So let's go ahead and get into this article. Very frustrated face there. And oh man, he just needs to accept the balding and be sort of dignified about it, like his brother, instead of, yeah, clinging on. So it says the Duke of Sussex is being sued by his former charity Sentebale for defamation. The charity has accused the Duke and Mark Dyer, a close friend of the prince and former charity trustee, of being the architects of an adverse media campaign which has significant viral impact and triggered an onslaught of cyberbullying directed at the charity and its leadership. So basically the charity and Sophie is, I would argue, how to actually read that. And then the lawsuit, which claims were described as offensive and damaging by the Duke, follows his resignation as Sentebale's patron last year, a move he made in support of several of the charity's trustees who had resigned en masse. Okay, so again, taking some steps back and looking at this. So how I looked at this, and I read the Financial Times report on this, and I read a lot of articles about this at the time. What basically happened is that Sophie wanted to take the charity in one direction, and some of the initial board members wanted to take it into another, and they were overall having trouble fundraising. And some of that blame was put on Sophie. Sophie has put that blame on Harry. And I think actually both things are true at once. This is the thing, guys. two things can be true at once. Because what people are seeing and reacting to on social media and the world of social media is very different than real life. And that's just such an important thing to remember is that, and that's why people are so horrible online, is because they think they have a level of immunity there, but that's not how the real world actually operates. And sometimes it's good to kind of get out of that social media bubble. But to me, when I've read everything, it's like, honestly, it was a natural cessation of relationship that resulted in a severing, that resulted in Harry and the prince, the other prince of Lesotho, having to resign. And they had a right and they had, I think, an obligation to explain why they resigned. That is not a cyberbullying or any type of bullying. That is business, guys. That is 100% business. That is not by any sort of means something where it was to the level of bullying. So that's just important to remember. And I think part of this thing too is that I do think though that Harry is due for something like this. So even if, let's say, he wins, I think he's due, and his bad reputation has perpetuated this case. So, and the level for threshold for defamation in the UK is much different in the United States. You can never file this lawsuit in the United States. You can never file this. And that might be, I come from a bit of a US perspective. I tend to be very business minded. My father is a businessman. And so I just look at things and I just go, okay, that's just business. Like, and one of the things my parents taught me so much is that it's not personal, it's business. And it's best to treat things as business instead of personal. And there was some obviously boundaries here that are a bit different, but let's move on to the next piece here. A charity watchdog investigation later criticized both sides for conducting a war of words in the media. So other members of the board spoke out, Harry, of course, and others did as well. And honestly, I believe the charity watchdog investigation came to the right conclusion. Everybody was at fault. Nobody put the interest of the charity above their own egos. It was all ego driven, I think, on both sides. And so it says the Duke of Sussex and Mr. Dyer are now being sued for defamation by Sentebale, according to the High Court records. Harry co-founded the charity in 2006 to help young people with HIV and AIDS in somebody saw and pronounced it and I didn't. And Botswana, in memory of his late mother, Diana, Prince of Wales. The Prince, Sisu, I think it is, also founded it on behalf of the memory of his mother. So online court filings show the men as defendants in a libel or slander claim. No documents are currently available in the claim, which was originally filed on March 24th. So without some of that, and again, this could go back to internal business dynamics. That is something that does need to be, that we do need more clarification on. So we need more clarification on what exactly was said, what exactly was unsaid, and how these dynamics came into play. So the Duke of Sussex resignation as patron came after a group of trustees stepped down in March of 2025 and saying they had lost confidence in the chairwoman, Dr. Sophie Chandoka, the charity's chairman. So this was multiple people lost faith. And again, they couldn't raise any money. And this goes back to as well, guys, can't forget, COVID negatively impacted a lot of charities, 100%. Harry did sort of lose focus on Sentebale. But at the same time, he was not running it. He was a co-chairman, but he wasn't actually running the day-to-day operations. So, and he really didn't really have, let's say, a objective to really run them very well. How should I put this? In his role, he wouldn't have. So I've worked in several companies, and there are definitely people who, actually a different examination would be when I worked for intern, I should specify, interned for the State Department. There is actually in big embassies. So this is like the London embassy. There is the ambassador and the deputy chief of missions. So the ambassador is a political figure who goes around and kind of schmoozes. That's their job. And kind of works within that realm, whereas the deputy chief of mission actually runs the embassy. So Harry was sort of the ambassador, which meant he was there to schmooze, but he didn't really have much interaction with the running of the embassy, which means managing career diplomats and their staff. So people who work on visas, people who do intelligence work, and these sorts of things. They weren't involved in managing any of that because that is managed by the State Department, whereas the ambassador is a political appointee that changes per term. So that's just important to distinguish and understand, because I think that's like people keep blaming him for how Sentebale went into the ground. And of course, he played a role, but he was not the sole arbiter here. He did not have a ton of day-to-day operations. And again, you have COVID factoring in here. You had travel factoring in here. You had a bunch of things. So anyways, just being clear, because again, people just don't seem to be able to look at this beyond the Harry and Meghan thing, which of course has played very much to Sophie's favor, but also not to her favor at the same time. So trustees had moved forward with a vote to remove Ms. Chandoka, but she blocked the process by filing a claim in the High Court and has continued in the role. So she basically utilized her role in the board to save her job, these sorts of things. So again, very much business. It's not like great business, but it is business. Spokesperson for Harry and Mr. Dyer said, as Sentebale's co-founder and founding trustee, they categorically reject these offensive and damaging claims. It is extraordinary that charitable funds are now being used to pursue legal action against the very people who built and supported the organization for nearly 2 decades, rather than being directed to the communities the charity was created to serve. Guys, they're not necessarily wrong there. And that was actually my question. Now that I'm thinking about it, that was my question when this whole thing was coming about, which was that if you're donating to Sentebale, let's say after the bust up, is it actually helping people, or is it just going to fund legal maneuvers to save egos? That's not, and that's actually why the original board of trustees left, in a way, is because they didn't want to legally challenge, because they thought that would take away from the charity's operations. And now that's still what's being done. And honestly, guys, it's not going to help. No matter, even if you help them with a quote unquote legal defense, as Caxtar is suggesting, it actually will not help. And the reason is, guys, is because this really, I don't think, has that much to do with Harry really at the end of the day. This is about a charity who I think was poorly run for years and was struggling. And they brought in somebody to right the ship. Still didn't help all that much with that. And so there was a bust up on the board. And sometimes it happens with charities, guys, that the original, let's say, founding mission, runs out of steam, or it needs to evolve and go in a different direction. Not everybody can agree on what that is. So I think Sentebale hit a wall, and everybody had issues. And as a result, and again, there were multiple things here. Dr. Sophie made allegations. Harry and some of the trustees made allegations, about pay and these sorts of things, guys. So again, this desire to see everything as Harry is a bad guy here, actually, I don't think is actually true in this case. That doesn't mean everything. But yeah, Marjorie asked, do you think the charity will end up closing down? I honestly think it won't survive. And I made that suggestion last year. And I think, especially with this case, I still think that is true. So, and again, if I was somebody looking to donate to a charity, I would not donate to Sentebale, not because of Harry. Although if Harry was still part of it, that would probably partly be it. But I don't think it's being run well. I think ego is still a huge driver in how decisions are being made, and that does not help the people, that does not help the cause, and that does not help a charity succeed. A charity needs to be less about ego. And I mean ego with everyone. Harry, Dr. Sophie, Mark, whoever, all of them have their egos here that are playing in this dynamic. And Alice is right here, and this is kind of what I'm getting to, saying, I think he's not the villain totally in this, but he's made himself an easy target because he's so toxic that it is his fault. Yes. Harry, you can blame things on him, and there's a cadre of people who will simply believe just because it's Harry. And honestly, if you actually look, and honestly, Maria will get to it, but I don't actually think the charity is doing well at all since Harry left. And I'll explain to you why. But when it comes to Harry, and if you go to the African Park situation in Chad. So African Parks made a series of, not African Parks, Chad made a series of allegations against African Parks and said we were distancing ourselves from them and we're dropping them. And then 2 weeks later, we get the notification, oh no, we've renegotiated the terms of the deal and we're all good now. So what happened? That's weird, right? What happened was, I think, is that Chad leveraged Harry's bad reputation to finagle a better deal from African Parks. 100%, I think that's what happened. Because Harry now is much more of a liability to any organization he is part of than an asset. His toxic reputation is so incredibly bad that I think Sentebale and the people who are running it right now are still blaming him, or at least trying to blame him, for the charity itself failing. And yes, he played a role, but I don't think he is the sole reason. I think there are a variety of factors here, a variety of factors going on that, to me, scream of things not being done well. And the reason they're suing is because going after Harry actually did not fix the problems. That's the thing here. They're suing because the reputational damage or whatever has been so bad they haven't been able to compensate for it. And they're kind of hanging on by their bootstraps, basically. And I think that's because the war of words and the desire to go to the media on Sentebale's side and Dr. Sophie to argue for their side actually hurt them in the end. And again, people love that sort of drama on social media. But guys, that sort of drama will not help you raise money. It will not help your charity succeed. It looks good on social media. It does not correlate into real world results that are positive. Never does, pretty much. And the reason is that people who have money who would donate are wondering what the heck their money is going to go to. Is it going to go to actually serve the people, or is it going to go to this more litigation to try to right a ship that would be much better served by simply working rather than trying to settle vendettas? I hate to say it, but that's, I think, what's happening here. So hold on. Let me take a quick drink here, guys, because the coughing is still a thing. It's getting better. I actually turned a corner this week, but it's definitely still a thing. So in a new statement explaining the 2026 legal action, Sentebale's current board of trustees and its executive director denied charitable funds were being used to support it. So maybe she's using her own money or her family's money. It said that, but again, Harry and Meghan said that they weren't using taxpayer funds for their trip, and they kind of sort of are. So, and to be honest as well, this lawsuit will distract and take time away from the charity, regardless of whether or not it's being funded by somebody else. And so the charity had experienced false narratives circulated through the media about the charity and its leadership's attempts to undermine its relationship with staff, existing and prospective partners, and force diversion of leadership time and resources into managing a reputational crisis not of the charity's making. So you got to be careful here, because that's not entirely true. And the reason is that there are two sides to every story, and there is absolutely nothing in the world that says that Harry can't say his side. There's nothing in the world that says that. He's allowed to say his side. She's allowed to say her side. But again, prudence here, discretion, kind of kind of pulling back is actually better than kind of continuing on a fight. Sometimes it's best just to let the fight go. Let the fight go. Let your work speak for itself. And I'll give you a personal example later of that I've had to deal with in my own professional life that actually contributed to the starting of this channel, to be honest. And I could have taken a Sophie level track, and I didn't. And in the kind of broad spectrum of life, I think that'll serve me much better than having gone antagonistic. And that's just something to reflect on. And what I see here, the false narratives in the media about the charity and its leadership, attempts to undermine its relationship with its staff. Like, again, I'd be curious about questions. I think that has maybe some promise. But existing and prospective partners, the false narratives in the media, you should be able to actually, if things are going well, you shouldn't have to, let's say, rely on pushing certain things in the media in order to you shouldn't, a false narrative shouldn't really have much hold if it's totally false. And you should be able to prove that it's not false to prospective investors, or donors in this case. You should be able to prove, hey, this person's lying. Here's our paperwork. Here's how everything's going. But I go back to, I can't remember which article it is. But I remember very specifically is that they had brought over to Lesulu, they had brought a group of people there as potential investors, and Harry was there and Sophie was there. And nobody bit. Nobody decided to go with the charity. And the reason I said, and I think it's true, is that they saw issues. You become wealthy by knowing how to keep your wealth and investing well. And that includes charity. And so if you don't see a worthwhile investment, if you see problems and issues, then, you're not going to put your money there. And that does come a bit back to Harry, Dr. Sophie, and the rest of the charity. I just don't think any of it was being run well. Kaksar says, Harry was wrong to use such language. The patron damaged the charity reputation. He's allowed to use the language he wants to. And if it's true, or if it reflects how the relationship fell apart, then he has a right to say it. Again, this weird thing is that this belief again that, oh, I forgot my train of thought. But Harry's, again, reputation. Think about this. Harry's reputation is so bad that it's just easy to blame things on him. And he's created that for himself. And I know people love like the fight and everything. Guys, the fight's not good. The fight's not helping. You might like it on social media, but it doesn't work in the real world. If you try that in a real job, you will not find another one. Sometimes, guys, you have to pick your battles. You have to think a little bit more about kind of logically, and not just based on what you want something to be. So, reputation hard. The charity seeks the court's intervention, protection, and restitution, so they want money, following a coordinated adverse media campaign conducted since March of 25th, 2025, that has caused operational disruption and reputational harm to the charity, its leadership, and its strategic partners. And again, I think they should have been able to ride out this storm fairly well. And to me, that speaks of that the charity, despite ousting Harry, is not better off. The charity's not better off, guys. This idea that it's better off without Harry is just simply not true. And I don't think you can blame it all on Harry for why the charity isn't doing well now. There has to be a different reason why it's still not doing well. And if Harry's out of the picture, then that leaves other people. It just does. The proceedings have been brought against Prince Harry and Mark Dyer, identified through the evidence as the architects of that adverse media campaign, which had significant viral impact and triggered an onslaught of cyberbullying directed at the charity and its leadership. The charity should not continue to use its resources to manage and address the damage this adverse media campaign has caused to its operations and partners. This must stop. The board and executive director have taken this legal action to secure that protection. The costs of doing so are being met entirely by external funding, and no charitable funds have been used. But again, time will be allocated by people on staff of the charity to address this lawsuit. Like that's just how kind of these things roll. But the thing here that's incredibly important, I think, to consider is that would this have been better managed if Dr. Sophie had just simply said, when they said their side, just said, I thank you so much for their support. We are sorry to see them go, but we're going to continue our work and just let it ride. Not say anything else. Not say anything else. I think the charity would be better off, because then you made it a battle. And making it a battle means that you're more likely to actually lose the war than win it. So that's going to be the challenge here. And again, people like the social media. This plays well to social media, because social media is not the real world. And getting engaged in a social media campaign can have real world impacts. And starting this kind of media, because I think she ran a media campaign too. There were two media campaigns that were run here, hers and theirs. So she can't just blame theirs. Hers factored into it too. And then you get into a tit for tat where nobody really wins. That's why, guys, sometimes I like to kind of say my piece and step back, because even if people don't agree, and I want to debate people, I genuinely do. But honestly, I've found through my time on social media that debating sometimes doesn't help. It makes things worse. It doesn't actually share your side. It actually becomes a sort of a war of attrition where nobody really wins. And there were a variety of things going on here. And I don't think, again, from all that we've read, the charity had not been run well. It was really, really struggling to raise new funds. The meetings over new funds did not go particularly well. We had some sort of bust up between Harry and the head of a Japanese organization that was donating, and then Sophie and part of that Japanese organization. And so both sides had a bust up with whatever the organization was. And Clifford asked, what evidence do you have that the charity is not doing well? They're suing. They're suing. If you're doing well, why do you need the lawsuit? Why? What's the point? They're doing the lawsuit because they're losing. And the charity is not raising more money. And yeah, Alice says debate only works if everyone is in good faith. If it's about point scoring, then there is no point in it. Exactly. That's kind of why I shared my thoughts on Prince William and kind of the church situation. And I just left it on Twitter. I didn't engage anymore. I didn't look at any of the comments on it, because then I would want to debate people on it. But honestly, it just tends to get worse the longer I do it. And yes, Harry may have done things, but guys, Sophie may have done things too. Again, there's this desire to think it's always Harry. It's not always Harry, guys. Harry's not always a bad guy. He's a convenient one, but he's not always one. And again, the Charity Commission didn't really find a huge cavalcade of evidence of bullying. And I think here we have to wait and see how this plays out. Now, of course, you can make because it doesn't say, it's not clear which statements made by Harry or Mr. Dyer are considered defamatory. This might be a bit of a kind of what you could call a fact-finding mission, legal fact-finding mission. Make the claim and then go through and see if you can find something that sort of makes your case work. But it's important to see things in a real way and not the social media way. And it's also quite important to understand that just because somebody said something you don't like doesn't mean it's bullying. sometimes people don't think, or sometimes it was actually interesting. So I was watching, it's kind of, I think they call it Jubilee debates or something. And so it's a person in the middle. In this case, it was Gillian Anderson. And there was all these people around the side, and she was against the body positivity movement that sort of encourages obesity. That's what she was against. And so people would come up and they would debate her. And the one thing that she didn't get, which I really was hoping she would get, and she never did, was that, if a doctor tells you you're 250 pounds and you're 5'1", and the doctor tells you you're morbidly obese and you might actually die young because you're too overweight, is that bullying, or is that just telling the truth and you didn't like it? Those are two different things. And we don't, oh, Jillian Michaels. Thank you, Baseline. And so we don't know sometimes what was actually said. We have a lot of allegations, guys, but we have not had actually firm evidence. It's not firm evidence yet. We don't have a paper trail yet. And I think Dr. Sophie and Sentebale are reaching. That's my personal opinion, but I think they're reaching. I think they're hoping that maybe they can find something, or they have ideas that they think can work, or, just the British legal system might give them more of a kind of a leeway to do this, because in the US, you would never win this case. You would never win this case because the threshold for defamation is so high. So you have to prove that somebody maliciously continued to spread a lie even though you had shown them evidence of a truth telling. You have to kind of show malicious intent, a lot of things. And so the threshold for defamation in the US is incredibly, insanely high. And I think that's actually a good thing. It's a really, really good thing. And I will give you a personal example because I think this is important. Because again, people love that they think she's sticking one to Harry. And I just don't really think she is. Sticking one to Harry, guys, would have actually been saying sayonara, staying mostly quiet, and proving that the charity was just fine without him. Because I think they're suing because the charity is not fine without them. They're suing to make more money because I don't think they're making all that money. I think the charity is still floundering and not quite sure what to do. Getting rid of Harry actually didn't fix the problem because the problem was deeper than that. And usually that is always the case. Again, he was actually trying to help. He was clumsy at it, but he was attempting to help, and things just still went sideways. So I'll give you a personal example. Because again, I think and I hope people actually learn good, let's say, professionalism and business practices. So this is what happened to me. So I was hired for a particular job. I was working with somebody who had, let's say, a somewhat high profile, and it did not go particularly well. And it was not a fault of mine. It was actually how this person reacted to particular things. And I can say that, guys, with certainty, because everybody within the organization that I worked with in regards to this basically all said, hey, this is not your issue. This is this person's issue, these sorts of things. But I was hired for this job. I attempted to do it. And of course, when you're working with something, sometimes it just takes a little bit, to get into the new rhythm or whatever, or try to figure out what your working relationship could be. But this person decided at the end of the day that they didn't want a working relationship with me. And, I was sort of publicly demoted. I was sort of publicly shuffled into a different department. And yeah, I'm sure there was speculation. I'm sure there was a bit of gossip about what had happened. And it wasn't a particularly pleasant feeling. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. But my parents had instilled in me quite a few things. And one of them was, of course, when you're in business, it's business and then not personal, even though sometimes it can feel very personal. It can feel very, very personal. And so you could say, stepped back and was, publicly shuffled somewhere else. And I decided to take one of the things I did in response to that is I was very frustrated because I thought I actually could help this person. And I thought I actually knew more than this person, let's say, let me let me do for them. And that if we had given it more time, we could have actually been quite successful together. So I decided to start the channel instead. And I was like, well, if I can't do what I was hoping to do with that person, I'm going to start my channel. And once you know it, I'm actually wildly more successful than that person is now in terms of at least YouTube. I mean, overall, probably YouTube subscribers for sure, and all these sorts of things. So it's was one of those things though where now, especially with a relatively, you could say, high profile, I could have gone scorched earth on that person. I could have said a lot of things that I felt at the time or how I was treated and these sorts of things, which could, in some instance, maybe rise to the level of bullying. I don't think so, really. But, it was not a pleasant experience. But I decided instead of having an attitude, being rude, fighting, these sorts of things, I decided to just stay quiet, work, start my YouTube channel, and look for another job. So I looked for another job and I found one and I left. And here's the thing, the person I worked with was very high within the organization. And they saw how I navigated that and were very impressed by it. And I met with her actually in September. And it was a lovely conversation. And she reiterated again that it had nothing to do with me. Brittany, she's like, this had nothing to do with you. It's just how this person is. And they've had falling outs with other people. It's been sort of not a great working relationship with a lot of people. So I, definitely felt at the time like a loser. And I felt at the time that I was being targeted in these sorts of things, but I ended up actually coming out the winner, you could say, although that person doesn't know that. It's that I can go back now and I can still work for that organization. In fact, when I went back in September, I ran into somebody else who's even higher than that person in the organization. And I had a fabulous conversation with them as well. They remembered me, they liked me. And so within that organization, even though you could say I could have been the target of a bit of slander, perhaps, a bit of misinformation, a couple of things, I just kept my head down and I worked. And wouldn't you know it, if I ever needed a job, I have a job that I can go back to. I mean, not the exact job, but I could probably apply. And my former boss said, she's like, I'd hire you in an instant. If there was something that worked for you and you wanted it, I would hire you back. And I say that story because, again, some people love the social media infighting. People love it. People enjoy it. They love those type of things. And they want to see more of that. They're like, "Oh yes, we're getting back at this person. It's going to be awesome," and all these things. But in the real world, I would argue 99% of the time, or maybe not that high, but 95% of the time, that actually doesn't work. It doesn't actually help your reputation. I think it hurts it. I think honestly, getting engaged in tit for tat with, Harry and Mark by Dr. Sophie hurt the charity. People stayed away because of that. And they stayed away because they didn't want to get involved in the drama. They didn't like the drama. They didn't want to get involved in it. Their money went elsewhere. And that's kind of how I see the situation and why they're suing. Guys, Sentebale is not suing because they're successful. They're suing because things aren't going well, and they're hoping that by suing, they may attempt to right the ship. But it's not, I don't think, going to go particularly well at the end of the day. I don't think it's going to help. I think the charity will fold. I think it'll fold because I think its objectives are more about settling the score than actually helping. And so, yeah, of course, there are a variety of perspectives here, and some people will, of course, disagree. They always do. But I want to always go back and actually look at things objectively. Try to take my bias out of a situation and look at what the articles, what the information is telling me, and take, you could say, the emotion out of the situation and try to look at things from an objective perspective. And the objectivity says here that everybody's sort of at fault for the collapse of Sentebale. Harry, Sophie, Mark, everybody. Everybody's at fault here. And nobody is coming out of this a winner. And lawsuits are not going to fix the problem. Lawsuits almost never fix the problems, guys. They basically never do. Lawsuits are a way to hopefully maybe claw something back, but I don't think it's actually going to help. I don't think it's going to help. And honestly, what I find kind of interesting is that in many ways, she had a huge surge of support for Sentebale and herself from the people within the Mexican community. She got a huge surge of support. She can say whatever and everybody believes her in that sphere. And so why didn't that help? Well, it's because, guys, social media is not the real world. And just because, again, something plays on social media does not mean it will play well in the real world. People are stepping away from Sentebale because they don't like the drama, and they think even the leadership right now is more interested in drama than they are in running the charity. And that's reality. That's the reality. So we'll see if this goes anywhere. Guys, so I would say, and again, I think Harry in some ways deserves to be sued just because he's been so he's been so interested in lawsuits and filed a bunch. And so I think he deserves a little bit of his own medicine. But I don't know if this will actually be the slam dunk. Like so many things, people always think, oh, this will be the next thing and it'll get Harry and Meghan. And it almost never is. It never really is. And it could be that there are donors, like Sir Squirrel Lot says here. Apparently, there are confirmed donors Harry persuaded to stop supporting Sentebale. I mean, if they asked him, hey, why did you leave? Here's the thing, guys. Things can be twisted in the way that works. So what's to say that Harry wasn't asked, hey, why aren't you with Sentebale anymore? And he gave his thoughts. He does have the right to potentially say, hey, I'm not. And some people, guys, were probably giving money to Sentebale because of him and no other reason. And so without him there, why should they give? If he was one of the reasons, if he was one of the people who was encouraging them to donate and was one of the reasons why they were donating, if he leaves and he says, hey, this is the reason why, they have the right not to donate. There is nothing that requires them to donate. Donation is a gift. It is a desire of the heart. And I think I would say defamation would only, the threshold for that, for defamation would only be reached if, let's say, Harry was saying something that was factually inaccurate and stuff like that. Then perhaps they would have maybe a bit of a case. But again, it depends on how the laws in England are written on this issue. And again, even lawyers engage in fact-finding missions and are not always able to do that. But yeah, I don't think this is going to go well. I don't think Sentebale will survive because I think it's more interested in these legal lawsuits and trying to fight back legally than it is in actually running the charity. Harry can say what he wants. Is the proof in the pudding? Is the proof there? Can you, yes, say X, Y, and Z? But you should be able to, like in my situation, even though this person thought I couldn't do X, as it turns out I could, and I could do it very, very well, just given the chance. So I proved it, and I know, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to, sorry, I'm kind of lost my train of thought, but that doesn't mean I'm going to broadcast it and do a tit for tat and all these sorts of things. It's not worth it at the end of the day. It's usually not. I don't think it's going to be worth it to, yeah. Alice says it's not illegal to be rude. to someone. That sucks, but it's true. Yeah. It's not illegal to be rude. They can be rude. Who cares? Again, and it doesn't matter what you do or they do. Excuse me. It doesn't matter what they do. It always matters what you do in response to acts. And so Harry can do what he wants, but you can also ignore him. Again, I think I would have advised Sophie to ignore him. Just ignore him and go on and do great things and let the charity shine. But it's obviously not shining. I think the lawsuit is because without Harry, they're just not getting as much. And that's where we're at. So we'll see where it goes. But honestly, guys, I would not put a whole bunch of stock in it. And again, unless we have like even the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case is an interesting comparison to this whole case because all the sexual harassment claims basically got thrown out. And and there is some, I think, credence to the idea that his PR team was very aggressive in pushing certain things. So she might have somewhat a case, but looking at the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case, guess what, guys? It hasn't helped Blake Lively at all to file that lawsuit. It has hurt her reputation immensely. Even if she wins, she's still going to lose. She's still going to lose. And it's one of those things where, again, you have to think here. Is there a high enough threshold to address this? It's not. It's just not. And again, I don't think this lawsuit will help Sentebale. I think it'll hurt it at the end of the day, no matter where the money is coming from. I think it's going to collapse. I just don't think it will ever. I don't think it'll ever really help all that much. Don't think it'll help. And best to just let it go and focus on running the charity. Because again, charity resources, even if it's not like totally financed by the charity, resources from the charity will be diverted in order to address this case. I bet you 150%. So we'll have to wait though until we have a greater depth of examination and sharing of what, let's say, the liable aspects of this case are. What was being said? What was being said? And was it a coordinated campaign or was it just we said we weren't going to continue with the organization? And again, there's this weird thing where people think that other people can do certain things and Harry can't do certain things because they don't like Harry. But yeah, this is just not going to end very well, I don't think. And I would suggest, guys, silence is often better than you might think. I think silence, sometimes people criticize it for, they like, speak up, speak out. There are certain instances where it's okay to do that. But a lot of instances, guys, where sometimes it's just better to let it go. Just let it go. I mean, you even think of Harry and Meghan. What has it helped them to speak out? No, it hasn't. And so that's just, again, something to consider. There's dignity in silence. There really is. As Emmer Scout says, dignity in silence. I think that's 100% very much worth remembering. And it's worth remembering publicly, like in a professional environment as well. So, guys, let's move over to, I've been requested to move over to the next topic. So let's move over to it here. I'm gonna have to pull it up in a second. Whew. Like, we're kind of getting this thing where we're like, it's been cold and then it's been hot and cold and hot. And so now I'm like sweating in my upstairs room and my internet just doesn't seem to want to work, or at least X doesn't. Because I was like, well, the article's on X. So let's move over to Harry and Meghan being funded somewhat by the taxpayers. And again, this is not a surprise. The surprise is that Harry and Meghan were kind of stupid enough to go, you know what? We're just going to say it's not funded at all by the taxpayers. And nobody's going to notice this thing. And it's like, but that was always the question. And so here it is, Aussie taxpayers to fund some of Harry and Meghan's tour despite insistence it will be privately funded. So let's go into it. And again, this is not a surprise at all, guys. But I like that the Australian government is saying, hey, yeah, we're doing this. Australian taxpayers are due to foot the bill for police operations during Harry and Meghan's tour of the country next week. The couple's itinerary is understood to include stops in Melbourne, Canberra, and Sydney. With more than 35,000 people signed a petition in March demanding no taxpayer money be spent on the upcoming visit, but a spokesman for the couple responded to the petition stating the trip would be privately funded and pinpointing how many Australians had not signed up, which was dumb. However, on Friday, police forces in Victoria and New South Wales confirmed they would be running public safety operations this month. The New South Wales Police Force will conduct an operation to ensue public safety is maintained during the visit by Harry and Meghan. The operation will require some additional security measures throughout their stay in New South Wales while minimizing any disruption to the community. So, yeah, Harry and Meghan kind of lied, didn't they? They lied. I think they lied. Yeah. So, I mean, we knew this was probably going to be coming. We knew this was going to be a possibility. I like that the government officially confirmed it. I think that's great. But it was so stupid of Harry and Meghan to lie. And again, this goes back to this idea of they're really trying to do these cosplay royal tours. This is basically a royal tour. They are trying to do royal tour-esque things, which is why they need security. Now, granted, of course, celebrities go to events, let's say a premiere, and there are police presences there. So, the Oscars gets an additional police presence. Other things get additional police presence, like a singer going and doing a concert, these sorts of things. You get additional police presence there because, you kind of have to. There's a large amount of people. So because there's so many people that could show up, you do have to offer a level of crowd control because that's just good. That's just good. And so I am not, let's say, against that in the slightest, because I think that's actually they have to do that. That's part of the requirements of the police force. So for example, through our area, we had those monks walking to Washington, D.C., so they got a bit of a police escort. So again, that's police resources being expended on them. And I doubt they paid. But Harry and Meghan here, they have publicly stated, in other instances, Harry has, that he would pay for security for his family in the UK, even if it came from the Met. He would cover it. But I think, again, that was just a total lie. They don't want to pay. They're not paying for this. Let me see if there's any more here. They'll be focused on the events in which the public may possibly be involved, which will be part of the force's expenditure. They would not comment on the couple's tour, but did acknowledge awareness of major public event occurring this month. Police are aware of 2 high-profile people are visiting Melbourne in a private capacity in April. Police routinely assess events and visits and will deploy resources as necessary to ensure community safety. They add that Victoria Police does not provide comment on specific operational arrangements and directed inquiries to the event organizers. And so Harry and Meghan, of course, are getting called out for this, as they should. As they should. They should 100% be called out for this. And this again goes to the problem of these cosplay royal tours. Why are they there? What purpose do they serve? None. It's all for publicity. It's all for self-publicity. And that's a big problem for these things. And they are continuing this half in, half out thing that they were denied and told, no, you can't do this. Harry and Meghan are still attempting to do it. And that's a big problem, guys. And of course, police sometimes are able to be booked out for events like police officers here in the States a lot get overtime for providing security to various things. My question is again, are Harry and Meghan, are they reimbursing the police for the expenses? No, of course not. Harry and Meghan are both cheap and lazy. Of course they're not going to do that. And but this again is another, especially when yesterday their public guy is going, yeah, 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 we're not taking any money. It's privately funded. And then the next day the police go, yeah, no, we're covering this. Why engage in such stupidity? Like, why engage in that? That's just sheer stupidity. And especially when you're talking about a Commonwealth country. I talked about this in my video yesterday. Because of the close ties between the UK and Australia, you can add Canada in as well. Harry and Meghan going to those two countries in particular because they are very close. Results, I feel like, in a different feeling towards their visit. There's an additional, I feel like, negativity to their visit because it's like, what is the purpose here? There's no reason for them to do this. If Meghan wanted to go to Australia and do the weekend retreat, sure. But why are they bothering children in a hospital? Why do they need to hold an Invictus event? It's not until next year and it's in Birmingham, for Pete's sakes. Why are we, Harry going to a rugby match in sort of an official capacity, it seems like? That they're doing these things, again, shows how little that they care about the role that they gave up, that they want to constantly try to redo it in their own way. And this is why, again, the title should be stripped. Because Harry and Meghan, part of the reason they can do these things is because he's the son of the king. Not under his own recognizance, but because of the level of influence and authority that you gain by being a member of the British royal family. Harry is utilizing that to his own benefit, and it's not to the benefit of anybody else but Harry and Meghan. And of course, taxpayer funds, again, it's not a big surprise. It's not a big surprise at all. I don't really have, let's say, an issue with it necessarily, because I understand from a crowd control standpoint, you need officers. But that they lied again, it's about the lying. Why can't you stop lying? You're lying because you knew people would be upset and mad. And so you lied rather than just telling the freaking truth, which we all understand. Like, there's a level of me that understands crowd control purposes, but that they are kind of going out there and kind of at the police having to go on the record about this is because so many people are asking, hey, who's funding this? Because we all knew this was an issue. We all know Harry thinks that he is the biggest target in the entire world of anything, is Harry. Nobody cares about anything else but Prince Harry, apparently, in Prince Harry's own mind. And so this whole thing is just a mess. Like, they're not even there, and this is already a disaster. There is no way that you can avoid this being an absolute train wreck. And this is due to recklessness on their part. This is due to their desperation to seem like they're doing something. And I would have no issue, let's say, a different world. Harry and Meghan, major producers now. Let's say, just because it's fresh in my mind because I saw a video from the red carpet of it last night. Let's say they're producers on Euphoria, a HBO show that just got released. And they're going down to Australia to help promote it. Fine. They're having a job that they're doing that's unrelated to the royal family. The problem is Harry and Meghan are still deeply entrenched in the idea that they are royals and should be treated as such, and that they should do royal things. There's no reason for them to do any of this. Get a real job. I always say that, but it's just true. It's like they need to get a freaking real job. Going around and giving speeches on something you don't know anything about, because Harry's dumb. Like, he doesn't know anything about privacy. I mean, this is a guy who told us about his frostbitten penis at his brother's wedding. Like, we don't need him. We don't need him. Like, it can only be for self-publicity, and that's where it's a big problem. It's a big, big problem. And I know some people think there won't be crowds there. Again, guys, what's reality on social media and what's reality in real life are two different things. So in some people's mind, there will be no crowd. But guys, if a famous person is somewhere, people show up. Even if they don't like the person, they want to looky-loo. That's just kind of people. It's kind of like the train wreck mentality. But that's just kind of true because Harry, there was a big crowd outside of St. Paul's Cathedral when Harry was there. They were mostly tourists. But will people show up to see a famous person? Yeah. Yeah. They will want to gauge for themselves. What does that person look like? I've seen that person on TV. What do they look like in person? They will come. If they know, they will come, guys. Like that's just kind of reality. There's a small cadre of people who like them. There will people who will be curious because they see the cameras, guys. So having been at various events, so one of the things was Harry's. This was actually this time last year, believe it or not. So Harry was in the UK for the court case, and I had arrived on one of the days when he was leaving. And so because it wasn't too far away from where I was staying to get over to the courthouse and I was like jet lagged and stuff, I was like, you know what? I'll go over there and I will work on my photography skills again. I'll go out there, stand out there, wait for him. He'll give me something to do, something I don't normally do. And so I took my camera and I went out there and I waited. And you'll get people who stop you because they see all these camera people and they'll go, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, Prince Harry's supposed to come out later. And they're like, okay. All right. And then some people stay, some people leave. It all depends. So this idea that nobody will show up is just a misnomer. That's just not true. Again, real. But there will always be people. Yeah. People, Alice, you're on a roll here. People come to look at anything. They do. They do. Like if you stand, if you're in a mall and you stand there in the middle and you keep pointing at something in the ceiling, you're going to start getting all these bunch of people who are also looking at that same corner of the ceiling, trying to figure out what you're looking at. That's always what happens, guys. When, people, you can tell people are all looking in one direction. You look too, because you're like, what the heck is going on? That's just the reality of people. So people will gather. People will be curious to see. It also depends on what time of day there. Is there a school there? Like those things, or is it a big tourist area that can also increase? Because I think part of the thing with Harry's Invictus Game Service at St. Paul's is that they could tell there was crowd control, police there, people were looky-loos. It's obviously a big tourist attraction. I think it was closer to the summertime. I want to say May or something, or maybe it was March. I can't remember. Either way, like it grabbed people's attention and people stay and they wait. Even happens with trooping. People come back going, what are you waiting for? It's like trooping the color. And like, oh, and they're thinking to themselves, do I want to wait for trooping the color? Do I not? I don't know. Like that again is just kind of people. So it's 100% a truism that people will show up for anything. I mean, that's why, again, when you have an accident on the highway and it's completely off the highway, people are still slow because they're looking at the accident. So, so that could be definitely, but I would be more interested to see protesters. That would be something quite of interest because I don't think Harry and Meghan have carefully choreographed themselves to not deal with a lot of protesters, and I think that's definitely a possibility. So anyways, guys, that's all I have for. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention, because I saw this reaction a bit on Twitter, or at least once or twice. And I always think it's good to be, again, social media versus real world. And it was about how Edward and Sophie had apparently visited Andrew. And I think I heard that Anne has visited Andrew as well. And some people were basically like, well, just let him rot in the corner of the world he's in and don't ever talk to him again. And it's like, it's so dumb of them to go over and talk to him or whatever. But they do have a relationship. They are family. And so I think it's important that family does, in a way, support family, guys. That they don't have to agree with everything he does, but there is no reason to basically shut him in a dungeon and not ever speak to him again. I don't think that's particularly healthy for anyone. I don't think that's a very Christian thing to do either. And that doesn't mean you let them run over your life. That doesn't mean you're helping their public reputation or anything like that. That means you're being human. It's important to be human because again, I think this disconnect between the real world and social media, sometimes people just make kind of treat some of these public figures in an inhuman way. It happens to Harry and Meghan as well. And it does bother me. It's like that's why even in this Harry situation, I try to look at it from all sides because I want to never forget that even though I'm talking about these public figures and sometimes I'm harsh, I don't want to ever forget that they're human, they have frailties, and that they have natural human motivations for things, both good and ill. And I think it's good to be real. And I don't think for Andrew's own mental health, because like heaven forbid, all of this kind of negativity forces him to do something drastic to himself. Heaven forbid. I don't want anybody to do that. And I think it's good of the family not to totally just throw him away. That's not the answer, guys. That's not the answer. And so I just want to remind people to we can call, I don't really use any nicknames for Harry and Meghan. I try to be very careful in my wording. I call them nincompoops a lot because they are nincompoops. And Harry is dim. I think we can all like that's been so as well established by the media. But I try not to be too harsh just because people are people and it's okay to have a relationship with even a person you're not particularly fond with. And I think it's fine, and I think it's okay for the siblings of the royal family to still have a relationship with Andrew. Obviously, they have to approach that carefully. He might be looking for a handout. They can't really do that. And I hope that for his own mental health, and again, I feel like mental health is overly used, but that he finds something to do, some sort of purpose in life, because I think some of the aimlessness is a lack of purpose, lack of a job, for a lack of a better word. And people who have sort of that lack ofness, and of course, it's a lot about as well the arrogance and these sorts of things that Andrew's had that from his childhood. But at the same time, I just like treat them as people sometimes. Don't go too crazy. Because some of that just kind of gets it almost seems that you're being cruel, and that's not what you want to be. So, anyways, those are my thoughts for today. And I see somebody else mentioning something about Australia. And I don't know if I can find it again, but wasn't too long ago. Oh, yes, Sir Squirrel Lot. Will they be at the Soho Aussie opening? So this is what I've been trying to track. And when it comes to the Soho House in Australia, there's no firm date that I can tell for the Sydney one. But what Harry and Meghan could be doing, because they're also opening one in Melbourne, is that Harry and Meghan could be sort of on a mission to kind of generate buzz for the Soho House. And like that's really the reason for the trip, is that they're building buzz for the Soho House, talking it up to people and these sorts of things. And that they're basically like, I don't know, the I don't know, the whatever to it. So anyways, I just find that to be kind of funny. But it just goes to show again how desperate they are. Again, Harry and Meghan, if they had been really successful, they wouldn't have to do these things. Meghan wouldn't have to be begging to be on a no-name podcast. She wouldn't be begging if she was successful. She's begging because she's not successful. That's the truth of the matter. So anyways, and yeah, so they're opening a Soho House in Sydney and Melbourne, but it's not officially open yet. But are they doing the rounds to do some sort of backdoor promoting for it? Probably. Probably because, of course, again, Gemma probably said too much. She's talking about Marcus Anderson. He was the reason that this whole thing is happening. So, like, and Meghan's tried. So this is, yeah. Interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? But anyways, guys, that is what I have for today. Obviously, there's more going on, but there's also been so much going on. Because obviously, as well, guys, in the United States, it's tax season. I'm moving. It was my birthday this week and my mom's birthday. And I'm going to Sweden at the end of the month and I have to be out of my place. So it's like 12 things happening at once. Is like so my brain is focused, my brain is scattered, and so it's and trying to keep up with kind of, videos and these sorts of things and brand sponsorships and all these sorts of things at the same time. It is a lot, guys. It is a lot, but I'm so thankful and grateful. I just want to get past this month. Have a great time in Sweden. And yes, we will be getting Min Lin. So when I arrive in Sweden, guys, my first goal after getting to my hotel is going and finding Min Lin. So that is Princess Madeline's brand, although she's officially Madeline Bernadotte for that. But yeah, I will be looking for that. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Alice says, "Are you looking forward to having a new studio?" Yes. So here's the tenuous plan. So I don't have a new house that, let's say, I've bought or something yet. I'm kind of in the process of saving and trying to figure out exactly where I want to live or what house I want to buy. It's so hard in the market because it's a very busy market where I'm at. And sometimes it's like I just look at the prices they want me to purchase for things and going, that is so much money for such little house. And so I'm kind of debating. So I'm staying technically with my folks, and they have this room, and they had actually, it was actually technically supposed to be like a storage room off that bedroom, and now they've turned it into like basically what could be a closet. So at some point somebody will have a really nice closet in there that they can build in. But so yeah, I'll be staying there. So I got to get not a carpet, but some sort of rug to kind of, because it's hardwood, to dampen the noise. We might have to work on that quite a bit, but we'll figure it out. I'm looking forward to the new setup. Hopefully it'll be much better. I'm actually looking forward to it because it should be, guys, much better for fashion related content. I just sort of hate the room I have here. Like there's so much more fashion content I want to do, and we'll get there in a different direction. But I just feel like that room, anytime I film in there, I just hate it. I'm just like, ugh. But I think hardwood works a little bit better, and hopefully the lighting will maybe be a little bit better. And so we can maybe have some more, let's say, fashion related content, because I too want to do that, guys, so badly. We're going to take Illudins now, like the little cough drop things. So I'm hopefully going to do that, and then figuring out, because honestly, the place I want, guys, is a rundown 120-year-old house. And you have to have like a lot up front to buy one of those really old properties because of so many things. So I'm like, okay, gotta work up to that. Aram Scout says, it's good to see new sponsors for you. Yeah. Dan helped out with that a little bit, and I'm so incredibly grateful. And so it helps a lot, guys, because it does help, the channel, and it helps, what I do, and sometimes the travel or the camera gear and these sorts of things. Because I was just thinking, kind of going through my checklist for the camera stuff. And oh my gosh, guys, the SD cards I use for my cameras have doubled in price. They have doubled in price. I have to see what Amazon says, but I went into the store. Actually, I have an example. So guys, they're just like this, but you turn them around and you can see one has double. So this one's more expensive than this one because this one can render faster than this one. So anyways, I go into the store, and these are usually like $128. Guys, these are now like $250. This is only 120 gigs. And this now is like $120, which that's what this one used to be. So anyways, this, like, all these things together. So it's really expensive. I haven't even checked the CF Express cards. Now, technically, guys, I have a crap ton of SD cards, but I'm terrified to erase what's on the card because I'm so terrified that I'll erase something, like a bunch of pictures, and I won't be able to get them back. So I'm like, I just want to buy new ones all the time, which is not economical at all. But I have yet to be able to get to a place where, and I need to really work with somebody who really knows what they're doing to come up with a really, really good, solid external hard drive and invest in that. And then I will attempt to move a lot of the pictures and stuff onto that because I would like to, but Oh, man, but the SD card price going up, that was rough. Missy Lulu says, "You're a YouTube creator. You can live in any city." I can, but I definitely want to stick somewhat close to family. Lizzie B says, "More tiara videos." Yeah. So, like, I kind of debate, guys. I'm kind of having like a challenge because I want to do more of my counting the centuries, more like podcast tiara video thing. But I don't have the time yet to do a full research project on particular tiaras and these sorts of things. So I kind of am just waiting for tiara related events, but that's not perfect. And sometimes if like they wear the same thing a couple of times in a row, I was like, I just don't know how much more I have to offer there in some ways. But I'm also really looking forward to Sweden because hopefully we'll get a lot of tiaras and I can get pictures and videos myself of them. That's like my goal there. So I have requested officially press credentials for King Carl Gustaf's 80th birthday. So fingers crossed, knocked on wood, prayers would be appreciated that I can get, because last time I got a couple of slots, but I did not get the tiara slot for his Golden Jubilee. This time, I'm just really hoping I can get a tiara slot. That's all I want. That's all I want is a tiara slot. And, but if not, guys, hopefully, if I can't get a tiara slot, like inside, my goal would be to hopefully, we know King Frederick, Queen Mary, Queen Marguerite, Princess Benedict are going to Sweden for this event. And although it's a little early, I'm really hoping they utilize the Royal Yacht Damborg and maybe the Norwegians do as well. You'd have to pick between the two yachts. But I would definitely station myself outside the Danborg and maybe actually buy an actual like literal step ladder so I can get as high as I can to get pictures. So Marjorie says, "Love the royal fashion content and tiara watch." Me too. Missy Lulu says, "You remind me of Christine McDonald. She bought a 150-year-old house." Yeah, it's like I have so many ideas. And I would turn the whole thing, the restoration project, into a YouTube channel, because sometimes the challenge here I've found is that without being in Europe, it's sort of hard for me to kind of grow the channel in the way I want to. So it's like I'm kind of coming to some questions too about the direction I want to go in. So Sharon says, "I'm not brave enough to not wear makeup." Oh, you're so sweet. Like I thought about this later. I was like, I usually try to, just because if I upload the video, I look better. But I was like, you know what? It is. Lizzie B says, "What, $200?" I remember those SD cards being like $50 back. No, like especially the really nice ones. Oh, that's not one of them. But like these ones, I was like at Best Buy and I was looking at it and it's 128 gigs, $250. And I'm like, was that not $120 a long time ago? And like these ones were like 40 bucks. And now these are $120. Now these the less expensive ones would be much easier for me to purge. They contain a lot of, my old video content and these sorts of things because I used to record it on a camera. I do record it on a camera with a lens now, but it's actually a camera that's attached in here. But whew, it's just like, so I wouldn't mind deleting these, but I need these ones. These are the ones I actually need. And these ones are so expensive. I'm going to have to see what Amazon has them for. Because they also took the CF Express card, this one, out of Best Buy. They no longer sell it in store anymore. Because I would go and I would pick them up before trips. And then they were like not there anymore. And I kept looking and looking. I was like, "Do you guys carry those anymore?" He's like, "No." And I was at one of their stores that was the like camera store. So these are getting more expensive is not fun, but I have a ton of them. Like I have like a literal gold mine. Like here's some more. But I don't want to delete them because it's like, what if I delete the pictures and I can't find the pictures again? And I spend so much time, energy, and effort to get the pictures. But yeah, we got more. I have so many of these. It's bad. Yeah, these are all SD cards. Now I have liquid gold though, man. These are liquid gold. Ugh. Oh, and this one's Sweden. I know this one's Sweden, so I'm gonna put that one over there. This is the other thing about moving. It's like, well, I bought today. You guys probably don't care. I bought a new SD card holder thing to travel with, so I hope that works out fairly well. Hot Mess Express says I found some good deals from Best Buy online. I'll look there too. Aram Scout, a memory bank could help. Yes, yeah, and external hard drive, yeah. Hot Mess Express says the newer cards are also able to do video easily too. Yeah, very much. Marjorie says you need an assistant to help you. Probably. We'll get there hopefully at some point. Alice says everything is going up in price. It is. But doubling in price is shocking. I'm like so bummed. Brenda says, I do realize Harry's not fully at fault for the downfall of his charity, but his reputation alone would keep me from any so-called charity he's involved in. I do not trust him or his true motives. Yes, absolutely. It doesn't help his charity and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's all together. Gabby Gonzalez says, once in Europe, will you be able to do London for the exhibition of Queen Elizabeth II's clothes? Sarah Squirrel asks the same. So I'm not going to do it now, just because my trip there, guys, to Sweden is actually very short. It's less than a week. This will actually be the shortest trip I've ever done so far for RNN. That's international. So that's going to be interesting. I actually think I wouldn't mind doing some of these trips more like financially feasible, especially if I actually use points for this one. Although the flight arrangements aren't the best. So anyways, but I think I would have to do it in a better class. I at least upgraded myself for one leg because I was like, I don't know if I can do such a short trip and not being able to sleep like at all. So anyways, guys, but I do plan on going, but I do want, it'll probably be later this year. I'm debating going in June for Peter Phillips' wedding. There's actually a lot of things. Like June is packed. There's like 2 solid weeks where it's like back to back to back events. But I don't know. My grandma's not doing particularly well, so my parents are helping with that a bit or need to be on call to help with something like that. So there'd be 2 solid weeks. The first 2 weeks of June is like we have a state visit, we have trooping, we have 50th wedding anniversary for Carl Gustaf and Queen Sylvia, we have Swedish National Day, we have Peter Phillips' wedding, we have the opening of the Danish yacht season. And so back to back things. So, but we also have in late June, I've heard, state visit by Japan to the Netherlands and Belgium. And people oftentimes do kind of the Netherlands and Belgium back to back because they have historic ties. They're very close to each other. And we don't have those particular dates for that yet. But I really want to go to the Japanese one because there's a very special relationship between the Empress and Queen Maxima. And so I really want to see that reflected in person because I think that would be great. So, like, my kind of tentative plan right now is to maybe do the first 2 solid weeks of June, come back for a week, then do the state visit. But we'll have to see how it plays out. I don't know exactly. I need the dates. Lizzie B says, I want to see the crest Tekken tiara come out of the Royal Vault. Me too. Marjorie says, I'm going to Buckingham Palace to see Queen Elizabeth fashion exhibition. You try to see it? Yes, I will definitely do it. We also do have a couple of tiaras there. So we may have to kind of wrap it up here in a minute because of my poor voice can't totally help it. But they have 3. They have Queen Mary's fringe, it looks like. And then we have, or at least a fringe. I'd have to look again. But I would assume it's Queen Mary's fringe because it's on top of her wedding dress. We have the aquamarine and we have the Burmese ruby tiara. So 2 of those tiaras are Queen Elizabeth II's design, and they're not well designed. So that will be interesting to see. And then, of course, the fringe as well. So that'll be fun. Trisha says, tiaras are so fun to see in person. I saw the Fabergé ones at the Houston Museum of Natural Science, and they were beautiful. I hope to see them one day. For sure. That's on my list, including going back to Washington, D.C. to see the tiaras there as well. Tennille Adams says, get better soon and happy belated birthday, Brittany. video on the new Tom Bauer book. So unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to finish reading it yet. I started it and then I was like, "Oh, I'm sick. I can read it." And then I was just like, like when you're sick, all I wanted to do was watch TV. And so like I didn't really have the mental energy to read. So, yeah. Uh Bo Assange says, "Are you friends with Catherine Middleton?" No. Stacey says it's a Victorian house. It is not. Sharon Young says, haha, Brittany, who is so experienced in all these fields as an adult, I'm guessing her late 30s, has to live with her parents. It's priceless. Not really when you're in between things. Like, I'm trying to decide what to do. I don't know quite what to do yet. Like, I had some options. There was actually a house I could have bought, but I was like, no, I just don't know if that's what I really want. I didn't want to overextend myself. And because YouTube is an inconsistent field, to be honest. So, there's nothing wrong. A lot of people do an in between to try to figure out where they're gonna go next. Because I didn't wanna I could renew my rent for another year, but I wanna be in a house by the end of the year, and I didn't wanna deal with rent when I could save and then have more to put down on a house or have more in savings when I put other money down on a house, like, don't be stupid and overextend and jump into something if you're not sure. I tend to be very cautious by nature. So Missy Lulu says Princess of Thailand right now is in The Hague representing her country to do with promoting fashion. She has her own fashion brand, House of Surivanari. Very cool. Alice says, Brittany, could you do a funny video about the ugliest tiaras ever made? Loads of modern ones are horrid now. They are so bad. Yes. Missy Lulu says, I wonder how Brittany labels them. There's so many. Aaron Scott says Chris Hytha is a photographer and architect rehabbing a brownstone. It's interesting. Yeah, I'm really hoping that's the case. Like that's what I want to do. But again, you have to basically they're selling the house for too much, the house I'm interested in. But when a house is in really, really bad shape, you have to basically put the like almost the whole you have to buy basically the house outright in cash, which is insane. So, anyways, that's not something I'm looking I could do at this exact moment. Like I could probably get something else pretty close together and put a offer on something else, but rehabbing a house is a dream. And if I need to, let's say, stay at my parents for a while the house is kind of getting habitable, then that would be good too. Hot Mess Express says external hard drives and backup drives are your friends. So yeah, I do definitely have one, but I need the best of the best, man. Maggie says, "Do not shop Best Buy, Amazon for these cards. I'll have to check it out." Clifford says, "SanDisk is good. It is good." Anne Morgan says, "I think she's opening the new Soho house. Is Marcus going to get Emma to invite her to cover?" I think that's kind of gonna be it. Lemon Drop Kid says, "All I can do is get the book." Texas Road Trip says U-Haul book boxes are small because the filled weight is expected to be quite heavy. It is, and I have like the regular ones, and I could just feel like, I could put them in there, but I was like, these boxes are not going to hold. I need the heavy duty ones, but I just got to find them. Lemon Drop Kid says it would be great if it went on the road. Very true. Diana says, anyone popping bubbly that Harry is not getting a taste of his own medicine? Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Ooh, Lizzie B, Minland giveaway for members. That is a great idea. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to grabbing some Minland while I'm there. And it's kind of funny because I'll have to bring a big suitcase because I had to bring my step stool and my tripods and everything. So I was like, I'm only going for a couple of days. I'll have plenty of space to bring things back. I can go shopping, which is one of my other favorite activities. Clifford says, what do you think of Robert Hardman and Hugo Vickers' books about Queen Elizabeth II? I think it's crazy that there are so many coming out right now. And I want to read them all. I just haven't had the time yet. But maybe actually I have a really long layover at JFK kind of flying out. So I may spend some time there and hopefully maybe get some reading in. Tina said, hi for Norway. Big fan of your channel. Why, thank you so much, Tina. Cheryl said, you need to take care of yourself. Moving stressful enough, let alone with a monster of a cold and handling a job, church, family, including Miss Pippa. I appreciate your dedication. Why, thank you. Yes, because she definitely demands walks. Well, she doesn't demand them. I like giving them. So we go on walks together. But that can take a good chunk out of the day. Princess Goose said, Japan's prime minister has a good sense of humor. Nice. Missy Lulu says Brazilian aquamarine. Oh, I don't like that one. Sir Squirrel says, does the royal family still have Princess Margaret's turquoise? That is a great question. And that is the one I want answered. Princess Goose says, coughing makes you tired. Yeah, I'm still taking nighttime cold medicine just for the coughing issues. Sharon says, nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah. Clifford says, the French crown that was stolen in the museum heist, but the thieves dropped it. Looks good. Oh, I'll have to see if they've been able to fix it. That'd be amazing. Tennille says, don't rush into anything. Take your time and enjoy the spoils of being at mom and dad's. Yeah, they got a pool, they got a gym, they got the works, man. It's definitely, and they got plenty of space. So it's definitely not like, it's not like my childhood bedroom or something. That would be really weird if it was like my childhood bedroom. That would be incredibly odd. But yeah, I just want to make sure, because I'm so glad, guys. I almost pulled the trigger on a house this summer, and I am so glad I didn't. I'm so glad. The interest rates are still high. Pricing how like the prices for houses in our area are exceptionally high for what they are. And so it's just like I just like want to make sure I find the right place. That I'm happy. That I have enough land, but not too much land. That I'm not like right next to my next door neighbor. But I have enough space for a studio. And if the studio is not quite in the house, but maybe not quite in the house, like there's so many things to determine. Tam says, did they lie or are they that stupid? They're referring to their flights, hotels only. Were they not including security because they believe they're entitled to it? Probably. It was just dumb. Again, it's the line that gets you. Like I understand the need for crowd control when famous people are around sometimes. Like I understand that, especially if the event is publicized. I understand that. But they had to know. So for them to not say, it's kind of a lie. Sarah Squirrel says, smarter to save and you travel so much right now. I do. So it's just, yeah, it's so crazy. Maggie says, I'm assuming you have a cough drop in. Coughing is so dangerous. Well, get stress, get well soon. Thank you. Yes, I do have a cough drop. I do apologize, but like some days I'm better than others, but Lemons Drop says, in Canada, rent is deductible. Yeah, so I can, of course, deduct what I pay in rent here. But I just want to find the right thing. Tracy Brown says, we know you defending Harry against Sophie. Well, I like to, again, be real. And I think, again, this mentality of defending or not defending, it's in some ways a little juvenile. Like we need to take each situation and evaluate it based on our information. What data do we have? What makes sense? What's logical? What's illogical? And like come at things from not a perspective of this versus that, which I feel like is so much on social media, but trying to think of a situation in a holistic perspective. And I find that when I do that, I'm rarely, let's say, wrong. Not all the time, because everybody's fallible. To fail is human, but I try to look at things with a more nuanced perspective than the knee-jerk social media style reaction, I would call it. I try to look things from a different perspective. Brenda says, thank you for not commenting anymore about William and his religious beliefs. It's very uncomfortable discussing religious beliefs, especially when we don't know the other person's heart. Yes, but we do know what is in your heart, obviously, is reflected publicly. So that's always something to consider as well. Princess Goose says, I had to move in with my parents for a financial situation. Turned out to be lucky because my father entered hospice a couple months afterwards. Yeah, you never know. And it'll be helpful to them too, because my grandma's not doing well. And so they're kind of debating how often to go to where she is, which is in another state. And so they have 2 dogs, and boarding both of their dogs would be challenging. And so I can help them manage their dogs and stuff like that. And of course, it's not forever, it's just temporary. And it's, sometimes it's just good to, as I think it's something I wish I had done last year. That's the way I'd be in a better position to buy something right now. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think it's A lot of people kind of have an in between while they're trying to find a place. Sam says, I'm living with my parents because my job has me away a lot and rent is crazy where I live. I think it's a bit outdated in this day and age to comment about living at home in the current climate. Yeah, I mean, everything's getting so expensive. It's insane. And honestly, in my area where I'm at, it is very expensive. And so it's a little bit challenging. And I'm going to enjoy having a little bit of a respite, especially if I travel again a lot of June, having a little bit of a respite, helping them with some of their travel as they help my grandma. Like we can hopefully kind of manage that together in a way, and then I can hopefully launch into and show you guys this amazing house that I'm, like, so in love with, but, of course, I can't even see it unless you have, like, a full due diligence, which basically means you have the all the cash in hand, and it's like, that's a lot of cash for a house that's in as bad a shape as it is. So I'm like, "Okay, we'll see what happens." Tracy Brown says, "How do you" no, she wasn't bullied. We don't know, but, like, we need something more specific, and you gotta think too. There's sometimes things people say that you don't like, that you don't agree with, that you don't is something that challenges you in a way, and sometimes people construe that as bullying when it's really not. And sometimes people can use certain words that elicit a certain response from people, even if it's, let's say, not the full perspective. Happily ever, Ashley. Aw, your channel is such a wonderful distraction. My sister passed away unexpectedly a week ago, and I've been distracting myself with royals, tiaras, and home renovations. This live checked all three boxes. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your sister. I'm sure that's so challenging, and it's so hard when it's unexpected too. So praying for you guys as you guys, navigate this time. And I'm glad it's always amazing when people say, your channel was a distraction to me. It helped me through a difficult time. I feel like that's such an honor. So, hopefully maybe we will have home renovation to add to the docket at some point in the future. We'll have to see. Lemon Drop Kid says, I think it's great to be with your parents no matter your age. Yeah. And I don't think it's not like mooching, because sometimes people fail to launch. It's like I've been on my own for a long time. My sister actually lived with them for a while she built up her own. And did I forget, guys, to go back to this? Oh my gosh, I did. I'm so sorry. I forgot to go back to Kel's Crawford. So I'm so sorry about your super chat. I totally meant to get back here and then I missed it. So you asked, happy birthday. I'm a huge fan of Critical Drinker and Neurotic. Love it when you shout them out. Do you ever listen to Mahler or the EFAP lads? I don't generally listen to EFAP. I have listened, or Mahler, but I have listened to Little Platoon, a couple of his videos, but it's been a while since I've seen them, but maybe I'm not paying attention. But yeah, I did go to MedicaCon, so I actually met both of them, Critical Drinker and Neurotic, who were both lovely and so fun. Because I enjoy, guys, I don't watch royal content, which might seem odd, but I don't want it to consume, let's say, every aspect of my day. So I like listening about Hollywood and nerd stuff because I'm a total nerd. I'm a total nerd. And so, like, to me, that's fun. And it's nice to see what other people are doing who are not in my space, because it gives me ideas for what I do in my space. So actually their process of how they run their live streams, which is more like topical and less just I call it popcorn that we used to do here on RNN and for the live streams. And I would just take question after question after question after question. And we would do like a lot of duplicate questions and those sorts of things. And I felt like it wasn't quite as enjoyable, and it was also harder to, let's say, clip sections out. And so they run their live streams more as they do topical. Obviously they have other people on there too, which is something like I've wanted to add, but I also have worries about too. I feel like guys can do that so much easier than girls can. So anyways, I enjoyed that, and so that's how I switched, and that's how we're hopefully maybe going to have at some point RNN clips, and so we can clip stuff and put it on the clips channel, which used to be the Crown Report, but it kind of just, I'm like thinking, I have too many thoughts. I have too many thoughts. That's the problem. And so much going on in so little time and so much. But I do enjoy that immensely. So it is so fun. I'm so sorry though, too, as well, Kels. I did not get back to your super chat earlier. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Lizzie B also gifted one Royal News Network membership. Thank you so much, Lizzie. You are so sweet. So let's go ahead and get over to a little bit to wrap this up here since we're getting close to 6. Anne Morgan says, what if Sentebale has emails, Sussex Squad messages, proof? What then? Yes, as more information becomes available and we get some hard data, the interpretation of the situation can change. What I see right now is a lot of it just seems like business and hurt feelings. And hurt feelings are like frustrating, of course. Like I've been in a professional atmosphere and gotten my feelings hurt, but it's not business, it's not personal, it's business. And so sometimes your feelings might get hurt, but that doesn't really mean it was illegal to hurt your feelings. And sometimes people take that stuff a little bit because, I listened to the interview Dr. Sophie did on one of the British news channels, and I remember thinking, this is a lot of I feel about certain things. And again, professional versus personal, like sometimes, being at work, it's not always fun. And so sometimes you just gotta let things go. Sam says, thanks, Princess Goose. My mom got severely sick, recovering now, so it worked out well. Good. And sometimes, God knows where you need to be at a certain time. So Tracy Brown says, are you forgetting the Sussex Squad bullied her, right? I can't listen to the show sometimes. Let me go over to the Royal Grift. Sure. You can go wherever you want to go. But yeah, she might have gotten some bullying from them, but she also got a heck of a lot of support too. And again, like I've gotten cyberbullied. You just kind of got to get over it. It's just is what it is. And that should not distract. So guys, if I spent all this time, there's especially one account that's very much bothered me and my family in the past. If I spent all my time on this channel complaining about that, like this channel would become boring. You just sometimes have to let some things go. Some people will just be rude and mean, and that's just life. You can't let every grievance become like an issue for suing. That's just how life is. And so, yeah, you can sue, but again, at the end of the day, I don't think it's really going to serve Sophie or Sentebale well. And I don't think it is serving Sentebale well. It's why they're suing in the first place. It's not doing well. All right, we do have Christina who gifted 1 Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Christina. Oh, Marjorie says, I feel your pain. I live in central London. Whew, prices are ridiculous, but currently slightly lower than last year. Yeah, that's crazy. Call Me Cordelia says, housing prices are high everywhere. I feel like something has to give. Yeah, I'm hoping that the interest rates also get a little bit lower. Tennille Adams says, I think Princess Margaret's tiara was auctioned. So her Baltimore tiara, yes, was auctioned off, but the lotus flower, which she had, that was from the Lotus royal family, went back into the royal vaults because Catherine has worn it, Sophie has worn it. But the big question is the Persian turquoise. So the Persian turquoise was previously worn by Princess Margaret, but it was a gift from Queen Mother, but was a tiara within the royal family's vaults. So the Baltimore tiara was one she purchased, which makes sense to sell. The Persian makes sense to actually go back into the vaults. Tam says they should pay for security, but the police are going to charge the son of the king for his security. Should they pay as private citizens? Absolutely. Yes. Barbara says, if you're on your neighborhood chat, like next door, ask if anyone has packing boxes they are getting rid of to pick up. That's how I got rid of all my boxes. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Alice says, finding a home is so important, particularly when you work from home as well. Yes. So there's a lot of things to consider. It's just sometimes, guys, like there's the house I kind of sort of liked, but I probably could have qualified for it. But like I had this much grass, and I'm not a big grass girl, but I kind of wanted a bit more grass. And it was cool because I had a bonus room on top of the garage, but the backyard was this tall or this much. And so the house was like a little bit flatter. And so you didn't get any light and stuff. I just was like, I don't know. And a house is an important investment. Make sure you get the right one And if you're rushing to make a decision, you will make a bad decision. That's my thought. Sir Squirrelot says, after the attack on the beach, the government will not risk anything since there is so much promotion for their movements. 100%. Like, and again, we all understand that. Like, intellectually, I 100% understand that. Most people do. But it's the line going, oh, none of this is being covered by the taxpayers, when it obviously is. That's where Harry and Meghan, I think, get in trouble. Call My Cordelia says, social media has turned adults into middle school mobs. It is true. It is true. It is true. Because it's one of those things where, because of that, it's like so high school, middle school online sometimes. It's so ridiculous. And that's why I'm like, it's like, go out and touch grass, guys, get away from X and Twitter and stuff like that. Because then you can kind of, like, again, the real world is not social media. And I can get caught up too and thinking the real world is social media, or too engaged in it. And so that's why I'm like putting Twitter down more and not engaging on it quite as much, because I enjoy Twitter because I like news, but it's just not great for your mind sometimes. Lemon Drop Kid says, the team is an echo chamber life complex. Yeah. Kath says, can you get a sponsorship from a camera tech firm? Just thinking freebies. I was thinking about that today, how to make that work. Because I would love a Canon sponsorships. Canon, if you would like to sponsor Royal News Network, we'd love to have you. Sam says, I totally agree, Brittany. These are just strangers. A lot of social media takes it to a parasocial. Like, these people don't care if we defend them or not, except they're not that it is, except Harry and Meghan. LOL. Yeah, it's true. Sir Squirrel says, family's at the heart of your life. Your folks will welcome you and Miss Pippa. They will. They won't welcome her little Tootsie Rolls she may leave behind from time to time, but hopefully we're okay. Tawny Adams says, I would honestly be surprised if those two ever told the truth about anything. So true. Baggy says, in my profession, not telling the truth about an investigation is an automatic dismissal, regardless of the reason for the lie. Oh, very true. And that should be Harry and Meghan's. Mystica says, is new construction out of the question? It is not. And I would not be opposed to, if I found a nice plot of land and I have a plan I particularly like, I would not be. I would not mind a new build. That was what I was looking at. But it was just like, yeah. Lost Girl Cosplay says, 14 says, I've always wanted to go to Meghan. It was fun. It was fun. So Princess Goose says, are you really a nerd, or are you a Meghan Markle type nerd? I'm a real nerd. I am a real nerd. I like anime. Like, there's my little ace, like little cat thing that I have here at my desk. So it's like, and I like the idea that you can be multiple things. I can love royals and tiaras and everything, but I don't necessarily like Pride and Prejudice. Never watched it, never had a desire to watch it. I'd prefer to watch an action movie or a comedy or anime or something like that. And so, like, you can be multiple things, but it's funny though, because people who know me and like know the royal thing are like, I don't like advertise my nerddom entirely. And some people look at like, they're like, well, don't you like Pride and Prejudice, or don't you watch like Downton Abbey? And I'm like, no, I don't. It's just one of those things where it's not my cup of tea. So Alice says, I love movies and TV and would happily chat for hours about them. Critical Drinker is awesome. Yes. Yes, he is. Yeah, I'm like, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to do and rock on over to Friday Night Tights. So that's what I'm going to do, what I've done with mine, which is just funny. Marjorie says it would be wonderful to have RNN live with a panel of guests. Yes. And I am not opposed to that. I've thought hard about that, but okay, and this is just me. The challenge is like who to invite in the space. Like, that's always kind of hard, because you can, mesh really well with somebody, or that could go sideways or whatever. And I feel like for guys it's easier because guys can let things go. Girls can't very well. So it's like, I don't know. But I love the idea. Lemon Drop Kid says, in my opinion, it's the personal interactions that make or break at the job. Very true. Oh, Kathy Listen says, I respect you so much for not bothering with makeup and such. You're perfectly lovely without it. I love your reporting, dear Brittany. Keep up the good work. I'm a stan. Happy birthday to you and your mom. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. Yes. Yeah, I was like, I should have put makeup on, but you know what? Guys, life is happening. I need to move. I've been in my sports bra, my Lululemon stuff. So it's like, it is what it is. The Lovely says, do you think Sophie is basing her case on hurt feelings? I think in part. I think in part. That's why I say egos. Egos translate to a bit of hurt feelings. Aram Scott says she put herself out in the media, needs to accept the results. Yeah, because again, guys, when it comes to the real world versus like you can engage in that media fight, but we've seen with Blake Lively, a lot of people, guys, that does not go well for them in the long run. Getting legal involved just doesn't really solve your problems. Shaz says, I think it's different when it's on the world stage. I mean, it depends, not necessarily, though. Sometimes it's better just to keep things small. DeLovely says, Dr. Sophie is a lawyer. I suspect she's aware of what she could sue for. Again, a lot of people use the lawyer defense for Sophie, but guys, just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you're necessarily a good one, or it doesn't mean that you're not willing to do certain things hoping that you get a win out of a situation. Like that doesn't, not saying that that's true, but just being objective doesn't mean, like, I try to really look at people from a different perspective and a more holistic perspective, and it does tend to work out favorably in the end. And of course, if we have like a huge diagram of conversations between Harry and Mark and their concentrated media strategy to take down Sentebale, then of course you can change perspectives. That's not a wrong thing. But based on what I've seen so far, based on the actual evidence we have, which is small at this point, we have a lot of allegations, but not a lot of firm evidence. My interpretation of the situation tells me is that we had a charity that was failing, attempts to right the ship as it was failing failed, and relationships got tense over it, and they broke down, and people have the right to leave. They have the right to say their piece as they leave. And then Sophie was trying to address what they had said and kind of got into a media tit for tat, which means more people joined in. And guys, media tit for tats, they just don't tend to go very well. Sometimes it's best to just let things go. Just let them go. Just let it go. At the end of the day, and again, from a business perspective, a strong business-minded person would not want to engage in Sentebale, not because of Harry, not because of really what he said, but because of how Sophie reacted and how the charity has become about drama rather than actually finding solutions for the local people. That's how they'll look at it, because they want their money to go somewhere else. Flumpy Poodle, Harry accused her of lying. That goes beyond her feelings. Well, I mean, again, that's alleged. That's alleged. So was she lying? Was he lying? And again, just because somebody lies, that doesn't necessarily mean you need a lawsuit over it. It doesn't. Sir Squirrelaw says, I've been amazed at your ability to give insults a pass. Like, it is what it is. People insult, people hate, and yeah, that is what it is. You have to just have a thick skin, especially, and that's the thing too. You have to have a thick skin, especially if you're on social media. Like, if I engaged in every tit for tat I could have, guys, we would be here endlessly. And that's no fun for anyone. I want to go and talk about the actual things and not I share a little bit of that more with our upper tier of members, but I don't publicly broadcast it. I don't go into details. I don't, let's say, overly focus on it because it distracts from what I'm actually trying to do. Nancy Goforth says, but when we're talking about Harry and Meghan, Sophie holding them to account for their behavior seems very worthwhile moment in time, even healing for many people. But why? How is she actually holding them to account? She's just giving her side. They have their side. Like, I just don't understand where you think the victory is, because there's not really any victory. And holding them to account in a social media way, a way that you like for social media, but that doesn't equate to real world results. Again, Sophie is suing not because Sentebale is successful, but because ousting Harry still means it's unsuccessful. If the charity was doing just fine, she would be screaming at it from the hills going, look how great we're doing. And of course, they've done a little bit of that. But suing to me tells me that the charity is still not doing well. You don't sue if things are going well. You sue when things are going badly. That's why Blake Lively is suing, is because things went badly for her and she got a bad reputation. Even though she's the one who created the bad reputation, she's suing over it. Will that help? No. She's still going to have a bad reputation. Actually, it's made the reputation infinitely worse. Again, just because Harry and Meghan behaved badly doesn't give somebody else an excuse to, let's say, start a lawsuit over it. Harry and Meghan's staff members have just walked away and they've said their piece, but they've been mostly silent, and it's worked out quite well for them. Alice Ransom Rave says, a fellow movie nerd here, Brittany, what's your favorite royal movie TV? Mine is The King's Speech. Oh, that's a tough one. So I did actually watch through the whole of The Tudors. I did like that. And I thought it was kind of interesting to see them age and stuff. I thought that was interesting. Of course, wildly inaccurate. But so is everything. My only thought is, does this historical drama get you interested in the real history? That's the thing. But I did not like the Catherine the Great series, which was like wildly imaginary. And I'm like, but like trying to be grounded in historical truthism, and I'm like, or it's historical reality. And I'm like, to me, my thought was, she became Empress of freaking Russia. And why are you having to make things up? Is her life not interesting without you making things up? Shah says, we need another room in the Tower of London for all the tiaras we need to see. So true. The Lovely said, how ironic the Harkles are all for women finding their voice, but when an educated Black lawyer finds hers, it's hurt feelings. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that that's what they think it is, but anyways, they've never really cared about women sharing their thoughts, no matter what the color of their skin. Kathy Listen says, I believe the suit has to do with trashing the charity itself to rob them of some donations. I'm not sure. Yeah, but if they were able to prove that the charity was within good standing and doing well, then they shouldn't need the lawsuit. I don't think the charity is doing well, even regardless of what Harry and Mark are saying. And if they've said certain things, it depends on the context of what they said. If they said the stuff within the context that actually makes sense for what they were being asked, and the ramifications of the discussions, asking why they left and these sorts of things, they have a right to say, guys, when a leader leaves an organization or the board leaves an organization, that screams problem in the real world. Real businessmen will see that, and businesswomen will go, why did they all leave? What's going on? And if Harry and Meghan say their side, they could be going, cool, okay, I hear that. Let me go over to Sophie. And they hear both sides and they don't like either side. They're not going to donate. And again, I don't think all the media tit for tat again helped. Marjorie Kathleen says, light is so important. My sister rented a house with poor sunlight. Yeah, I really want good sunlight. It's like, it's so hard because it's like, they have these houses and I'm like, I like them. But I was like, yeah, you're like crammed in right next to each other. I don't know. It's just so hard. Missy Lulu says, there are some jewels from the Queen Mom that were secretly auctioned at Sotheby's. And Anna Wintours has part of the amethyst paré. Anna has the necklace. She's worn the necklace, but she doesn't own the necklace. But yeah. Annie's Anonymous says, houses on the whole seem massive in the US, particularly in comparison to the average house in the UK. Very true. Very true. Ours are quite big. Leo Jackson says, you love anime? I've been watching it for like 25 years. Like when it was like baby in the States. Teresa, Celia says, regarding Justin Baldoni's PR team, I don't think they're too aggressive when viewed in the context of things she had done to him. Yes, but I could see they're also the ones, though, I guess they're the same firm that were trying to create a fake story about people who were involved with a project of Rebel Wilson. And we're like making things up like about sex trafficking and stuff. So there are some pretty aggressive PR teams out there. So that does go too far. So it'll be interesting to see. And actually that story came to light because of the Justin Baldoni case. Marjorie says, do you think Operation Thought is real and King Charles is actually trying to prepare us for a Harry return to the RF? Definitely a possibility. It's I don't know if Charles necessarily wants him back, but I think he's soft, and then government people, again, the government people who think just because of Meghan's skin tone that qualifies her to be a duchess, there are those people out there. Failsafe says, Brittany, you watch Friday Night Tights? I want to be friends. Yeah, I do watch it. So Alice says, Brittany, would you ever combine your royal content with your nerddom? Maybe fashion review on movie costumes? I mean, we could. We could. Marcella says, I love the 1995 Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth. That's awesome. Call Me Cordelia says, there are a lot of YouTube channels that just show live court, and there are many lawyers who aren't necessarily good liars. That is true. There's a lot of, and I'm not saying that anybody's a bad lawyer, but I'm just saying that just because somebody is a lawyer doesn't, like, have you seen them argue in court? How good of a lawyer are they? Do you really know? How often do they practice law? What law do they practice? Like, there's so many questions. Just like I have a master's degree in history, but that doesn't mean I'm the best historian in the world. I'm not. Like, foreign languages are tough for me, so, like, I struggle there. Just because somebody has like a degree, that means they're relatively smart, but that also doesn't mean necessarily that they're genius and flawless. That's 100% the case. Actually, what's really interesting is that, oh gosh. Oh, there was a documentary I watched about, like, a cult somebody got involved in. One of the people who got involved in the cult was Harvard educated, like in the MD program. So just because somebody is involved in something doesn't necessarily always mean that they're perfect in those things. Alice Ransom Ray says, I'm dreading the new Pride and Prejudice. It looks awful. I haven't seen it, but, like, I don't like, especially now, what really bothers me and what I would definitely do more on, and I should do more on, is making people from historically European, especially nations, making them people of color in films. I'm like, no, it needs to stop. It needs to stop. That is not good. That's not right. That's not historically accurate. And it's giving people a very warped perspective of real history. Aram Scout says a panel once a month would be good. Yeah, Missy Lulu says it might be after all that went public and newsworthy that Sentebale received more information of what Harry was doing against security. They definitely could have. And again, we need to take more. We need just more information. We've only gotten scant, and some people just believe something just because they dislike Harry and Meghan. They just will flat out believe something. We need more information. And we don't have it. We've had a lot of allegations, a lot of he said, she said, but very little actually firm information. Sue M says, please don't take offense, but you look really tired and pale. You need to rest or maybe go see your doctor. Maybe you look run down. Meant it only with the best thoughts. I've been sick for the last week, been moving and stuff, so that's kind of why. Call Me Cordelia says, insults are more about the person giving it than the person receiving it. Very true. C. Fran says, I respectfully disagree with you 100%. I believe that charity has every right to sue Harry. They can sue him. Will they win is a different question. Bo Assange says, does Harry do any casual dating with complete strangers? I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. Lemon Drop Kid says, yes, you can get run down so easily. Clifford said, Harry was the only one who briefed the Times, and Sky News invited Sophie for a rebuttal of what Harry said. It is not Sophie suing, though. It is basically Sophie suing because they definitely did mention the leaders of Sentebale. So I think it's definitely we're connected to her. But guys, Harry had every right to tell the Times why he was leaving. He had every right to do that. That is not a bad practice. If the board is resigning en masse and so are the co-founders leaving, people will want to know, and you have the right to say, hey, these are the reason why I'm leaving. Even as Sky News invited Sophie on, her rebuttal should have been, I'm so sorry that they're leaving, but here's the great things Sentebale are doing right now. Here's why you should support us. She didn't do that. She got engaged in the mud rather than rising above it. That's the thing. See, Faz says, it isn't all about ego. Sometimes it has to be addressed. But what? We need more information. We don't have a lot at this point. Lizzie B says, Harry thought brought the drama and made it public when he asked Dr. Sophie to get involved. Yes. And again, my situation, my perspective is somebody else might do something, but that doesn't mean you need to engage in it and go to their level. Sometimes it's best to walk away. Marcella loves Feel Brittany. Why, thank you. Ab Sorella says, get well, Sue Brittany. Why, thank you. Marjorie says, Marjorie says, assume this will be another civil case. Prince Harry paying his lawyers for Meghan Markle must be pulling her hair extensions out because his current case has a no-win fee. Very true. Oh, Call Me Cordelia says, have you ever watched the series about Empress Elizabeth of Austria? I haven't yet, but I want to. Shat says, "I love the great. It was awful but hilarious. I just only stay away because like it's so untrue, and I like that bothers me." Oh, Alice Ransom Ray says, "The other thing I'm dreading is a new show about Elizabeth the First. They're making her trans. I'm so angry about it." Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. It's not true. And it's just, ugh. Mm. So C for France says, "What films are you talking about that depict people of color instead of European white people? Please be specifics." Like a lot of them. There was a show, The Great did it. We also have uh the Anne Boleyn where she was black. I mean, they've done it a lot. And or they made Cleopatra black. And the guys, the reality is Cleopatra was Greek. She wasn't Egyptian, she was Greek. And because the Ptolemaic dynasty, so when Alexander the Great conquered, a good chunk of what could kind of consider the known world type of thing, what they did when he died is that they parsed it out into four different sections. And I can't remember all the names of everybody who gave it to, but part of India went to somebody got the Greek area, somebody got more of where like kind of Israel is and Syria and those sorts of things. And the Ptolemaic general, because there was like kind of four generals, he got Egypt. And so the Ptolemaic dynasty also were inbred. So they sort of married each other. So Cleopatra was Greek. She wasn't black, she was Greek. In fact, most of what we would consider actually the ancient Egyptians are Coptic. So because the top of Africa, you could say, is mostly of kind of, more Arab descent and those sorts of things as or you could even go back to what is it, Carthage, and the Romans got in there, and the Phoenicians, and all these sorts of groups were migrating around the Mediterranean, right? And then you had the intermarriage when the Arabs came through and kind of conquered the top of Africa, went up, they went up this way into Spain, and then they kind of went this way into Europe. And so you have sub-Saharan Africa, so down below kind of where that Saharan area are what we consider dark-skinned Africans. And to be honest, yes, there's history there, but guys, to be honest as well, this is actually one of the things I learned. I went to a conference on Sudan and South Sudan, and one of the things I learned, which was super interesting and I've always carried with me, is that there was no written history. So a lot of sub-Saharan Africa, guys, we don't have a ton of history for. And that's because they just didn't write it down. If you didn't write something down, we don't have anything after a certain point. And so how they actually track some of the culture in one of these Sudanese communities was actually tracking the names, because the names reference what was going on at the time: feast, famine, war, these sorts of things. The oral history of the names let them sort of track what was maybe happening at the time. But without writing things down, we don't have a ton of history. And so I think what we've seen people do is, in order to prop up, for lack of a better term, people of African descent, because it's oftentimes them. And obviously, if you haven't heard the controversy over Black Snape, if you're into Harry Potter, you will. And so when it comes to characters within historical contexts, they're often hiring, people of Black descent or people of, I would say more like some Asian descent, more like India. And it's just historically inaccurate. And there should not be color blind casting, because if you were casting a show about a African tribe, you would definitely not color blind the cast, but you only do it when it's white, because somehow being white has become bad. And I think that's wrong. I think it confuses people. I think it's historically inaccurate. I think it contributes to the diminishing of intelligence among our young people, because you are perpetuating lies. It's just not true. And there should be nothing wrong. I have my Juan Carlos book here, just as a side. If I have a bigger history book here, I don't see it. But it would be weird if you were cast Juan Carlos as a Black African, because he ain't that. He's Spanish. and there should be nothing wrong with being Spanish. Why is it wrong to be Spanish and to hire Spanish people for a series about a Spanish king? Like, if you were doing it, there should be nothing wrong with that, that has somehow become wrong, and somehow we need to, there was a show where not the Richard the Third, but one of the Richards, I think, he was Black and he was disabled and he was in a gay relationship, and I was like, none of those things are true. None of those things are true. But they have to do it to reflect specific now modern agendas. And, if you watch, Critical Drinker, he calls it the message. And that's just wrong, guys. It's just wrong. It's bad for entertainment. It's bad for our young people. It's just like, no. So we'll just do these DizFan super chats here real quick, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the live stream. DizFan says, Brittany, what are your thoughts on the current narrative about the kids? I thought they didn't want to show their kids in the first place. I always thought that was a cop-out for when they wanted to show the kids when it was financially beneficial for them. So I think we are getting to that point for Harry and Meghan. And yeah, they want the cash from the kids. They want the money from showing the kids and these sorts of things. And I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. But the kids, they think, which is not necessarily true, guys, but I think they think that the kids are going to be a financial cash cow at some point. And I even think the kids, showing the kids, has not been as beneficial as it used to be to Meghan. I don't think she's growing even quickly showing the kids, so I don't think it's working. Diz fans also give another super chat saying, as someone who comes from a big Catholic family, I find it very hard because look at all they could have with their cousins and their extended cousins. It is sad. It is sad. It's so sad. It's so incredibly sad, but that's what Harry and Meghan, I guess, want for their kids. And it's just pathetic. And it's, it's all about, I think, monetizing the kids. Like, I just don't even see that much sorry, I hit the mic. I don't even see that much connection between Meghan and her kids, to be quite honest. But again, there's only so much we can tell at this point. But I think Meghan should focus so much more on, building a business. You don't need to become a mommy vlogger. And here's actually what's interesting thing too, as well, to think about, guys, is that Tennessee just passed a law that basically will make it impossible for mommy vloggers to live there. If they vlog their kids and they're under the age of 13, you cannot vlog with your kids or have your kids as part of your social media if they're under the age of 13. So this may be a law that catches on in other states. Some people left California because they had some similar laws, not quite as long. And so at some point, it may, like, Meghan is kind of, you could say, moving into mommy territory, but she may not be able to utilize that for very long. If, let's say, the country passes a law saying you can't have your kids on social media, even if you're the mom doing it for vlog purposes, because they're underage. There's a whole guy who has a channel about it called Dad Challenge Podcast. And so I found, I don't listen to everything, but I have found it interesting. And an interesting thing to think about is that how kids can't consent to content. Archie and Lily can't fully consent to the content their mom is putting out there because they're so young. They can't fully consent to that. And the Wales' kids can't either, but the Wales' kids are in a different perspective, because the Wales' kids are going to be the future, like the future of the royal family. So it is part of the balance between, having children who are raised publicly and yet having a private life. Both of those things have to coexist for royals, but Harry and Meghan are not in that way. And so she's going down the path of being a mommy vlogger, basically, which is insane to me. And she runs the risk of potentially not being able to do that because the laws change. It's crazy. Alice says, I have no objection to her posting the kids, but she has to accept that by doing that, people can and will form opinions. And she doesn't like that. That's very true. That's what I would say too. If you don't want people to talk about your kids, take them off social media. That's the best thing to do. Take them off social media if you don't want people to talk about them. We talk about them because they're on social media. So guys, that's all we got time for today. I couldn't quite get some of my move things done, so I had to do it again. And I have to stop by and give my mom my card because it's actually at her house, because I kind of technically sort of put it in a box that went over there. So, guys, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This was a wonderful, interesting discussion. I appreciate it so much, you guys, tuning in despite the coughing and the voice and everything. Guys, so appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend, and I shall speak to you again very soon. Bye.